Good evening, everyone. My name is Emilia, and I will have a pleasure to run today's webinar dedicated to change. Probably before I'm going to share the main topics, the main goals, and the agenda of the meeting, I just need to check if everything is okay from the technical point of view and the quality. I see that you're already joining the meeting, so please just let me know if you can hear, if you can see, if you can see the presentation. That will be the signal for me that everything is okay, and of course I can move on. So I will just check. I can already see that somebody is writing, so probably that's already the signal for me that everything is okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, which means that I can move on to the presentation of the goal of today's meeting. Despite the fact that I'm going to talk about the process of change in the organization, in business, I will let myself not focus so strongly on the change management process. I will not talk about the approach of companies to change, but I will rather concentrate on our individual approach, our individual attitude to change. I will tell you a bit more about our natural reactions, about our emotions, about everything what is connected with our needs in the process of change. So I hope, and probably I also believe a little bit, that you will leave that today's meeting with a little bit higher level of insight about your natural needs, emotions, and reactions to change. During the presentation, I will embrace the four main topics. So first of all, I will concentrate rather on the reverse version connected with change. So I will rather tell you about the reasons why we do not respond to change with enthusiasm. Why our first natural reaction is not happiness, it's not joy, and what can be the reasons. After that, very smoothly, we're going to move to our emotions. And we will definitely talk about both pleasant but also unpleasant emotions. It's connected with the fact that I really believe that change is somehow a form of the bereavement. Because whenever any kind of change is addressed, we always lose something, even the comfort zone. So it's pretty natural that this bereavement somehow, and of course unpleasant emotions, they really will happen. Next point will be dedicated to safety. It is something that is extremely significant, really essential if we're talking about change. If we don't have the feeling of safety, security, if it is not going to be delivered to us by the company, I'm pretty sure that it's difficult to talk about any kind of engagement or motivation in change. And finally, the last aspect is going to be related to our needs. I will mention there a little bit about our typical motivators, our needs which are required if we want to treat change with motivation and with engagement. If it happens that there are going to be any kind of the question, something will be not clear, you will need some additional explanation, or simply any kind of the question will emerge, please leave it for the very end of the meeting. So I will definitely address all the questions. I don't know if I can say definitely. I hope I will be able to address your questions. So at the end, we will have also some spare few minutes to talk about the process of the change from your point of view. You will be able to add any kind of the comments and of course any kind of the questions. Let me then move on, probably still, to few words connected with my professional background. I have been working in the human resources area for the last 15 years, which means that something what is really critical and crucial for me is work with people and for people. I would even say that that's my mission, and I really love supporting, assisting people in the process of change as well, of course, in the process of development. Apart from that, I've been running different kind of business trainings. The topic which I'm running today is one of them. So I'm usually running the trainings connected with communication, with diversity, with change management, and different kind of topics connected with human resources. I also try to combine it with one of my hobbies, which is English language. And that's something that brought me to organizing different kind of the courses I would say the ones which are concentrated on practice. And I run different kind of the courses connected with English for HR, for trainers, for coaches. The one which is going to take place in the nearest future, in fact, in not more than 1 month, it's the Business Booster course, which is dedicated to practical knowledge and practical competences in business. During that course, we're going to concentrate, among the others, of course, on the implementation of the new products and services, or on the process of facilitation and moderation of meetings. That's just something what I wanted to mention about myself, and I believe that right now we can move on and we can follow the agenda of our meeting. Enthusiasm. Can you think and can you recall about the last situation when you heard about change in your organization, in your company? And if you recall that situation, can you also concentrate a bit more on your first reaction? So when you heard about that change, did it sound this way that you thought, oh, that's really fantastic. Oh, it's really great. Oh, change is approaching. Fantastic. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so enthusiastic. I'm really already in that change. Was it your first thought? Was it your first reaction? Take a second to think about it. You can, of course, already place the comment and you can relate to that question. So only if you wish, you can just put something into the chat. First reaction, first thought, were you very, very enthusiastic from the very beginning? Did you feel happiness? Did you feel joy? Or maybe your reaction about that change that the company wanted to introduce wasn't so enthusiastic from the very beginning. And I think that I would also risk that kind of the statement that I'm not sure if it is going to be so natural to react from the very, very beginning with enthusiasm. Because it's pretty natural, as I just mentioned at the very beginning, that change means something new. That change is connected with that bereavement. That whenever we hear about change, we have that kind of the feeling or even the belief or conviction that we are going to lose something. So it's pretty natural that we're not going to feel safe and secure from the very, very beginning. I could see that somebody was placing the comment, although I don't see it. So if only you want, just go ahead and add your comment if only you wish. And in the meantime, of course, I'm still continuing. So again, I would say that our first reaction is not going to be connected with joy, with some pleasant feelings, with some kind of happiness, which is pretty natural. That's the reaction of our mind. It's quite typical that when our mind is going to address the change, when our mind is going just to hear the change or the information about the change, our natural reaction is going to be connected with our limbic system. And our mind is going to interpret change, something new, as some kind of a danger. And then pretty naturally, we're going to react in 3 different ways. It can be about fight, flight, or freeze. And again, it's pretty natural. That's just the first reaction. Then, of course, we need something, and we will talk today about what we need. We need something to cover that feeling of insecurity to be able to accept the change. I can see that there is some comment. My first thought at the last change was, oh no, it does not work for me. Great. Thank you very much for sharing that. So that's not about this enthusiasm. That's really about some kind of the thought, no, I really don't want to have it. Again, because of the different reasons. I would also say that once we're going to face that first reaction, rather negative or a bit resistant, we're going to have some kind of question mark in our head, most probably lots of us are going to become somehow like observers. And we're going to wait, especially if we're talking about the business change. So we will hear that some kind of a change is going to be implemented, introduced in the company. We don't know yet exactly what is going to happen, why it is going to happen. So we are just standing still and observing. Most of us then, as we can see, are rather in some kind of adaptive mode. So we are waiting and checking what the company is going to offer to us. And I would say that in that case, if we're in that group, 60% of people who are rather adaptive, if at the very beginning we are going to be observers, the company has to be very careful how they are going to present the change, what they are going to do, what kind of arguments they are going to use. Because if they're going to make any kind of mistake, so they are going to be lacking that safety and security which we need, unfortunately, from adaptive ones, so those flexible, we're going to move to the group of traditionals. So our resistance and our rather rejecting approach is going to be much higher, just because the company is not going to present change in the proper way. Of course, there are definitely also people who are rather like innovators. And that's because of their personality, that's because of their traits, which means that whenever they are going to hear change, they will be the first to go. They will be the first to run. Because for those kind of people, and again, it's connected with our personality, with our traits, with our natural motivators, those kind of people, when they are going to hear something new, some innovation, optimization, something creative, some kind of experiment, some kind of exploration, they will be so happy, because most probably they are motivated by curiosity. So anything what is new is really perfect for them. They can be the first, they can be the champions of any kind of the change. At the same time, there are some of us who naturally are quite resistant to change, and they simply do not like changes, no matter what. No matter what kind of change, private, business change, no matter almost what the company is going to say and how they are going to present the change, they will rather react, no, I don't want it. I really don't want it. Of course, there are some methods that the companies can implement to motivate or to convince those people to change, but still, natural reaction will be, no, 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 I really don't want to do it. If I have to, okay, I will. But if only I could avoid it, or that would be really perfect. And let's say that if we are so-called traditionals, so our natural reaction, and in fact also constant reaction to change, is no, I don't want it. I would say that in case of business changes, it's still not that bad, because even if we do not want to address change, even if we don't want to participate in change, we know we have no choice. We have to, because that's the company, that's business. Of course, to some extent, we have the choice, because even if we don't want to participate in the change process, the other solution is, let's say, to leave the company. Although, if we naturally do not like changes, leaving the company, it's also change. So that is not so simple. So in business, we know, okay, no choice, we have to go into the change. But it can also happen that if we have naturally that kind of the approach, even any kind of private change, it will be really difficult and challenging for us. On one hand, we will know, okay, again, we have to, for example, we have to change the job. We have to move to another city. We have to change something in our development, in our life, but we really don't want to. And most typically, it's connected again with our natural needs and motivators. Because if I'm the person who doesn't like changes, it means that what I need is the feeling of security. I need stability and I need tranquility. So any kind of risk, and change is a risk, is going to be something very, very unpleasant for me. So I'm simply afraid of entering change. So what I can do, if it is about also some private change, where nobody's going to force me to it, is that I can do some kind of a task. And I can design so-called black scenario. So let's say I've been working in some company for many, many years. I don't like it. I'm not satisfied. I'm not happy. I know I should change the job, but I don't want to. So what I can do is that I can create some kind of a black scenario, which means that I need to ask myself the question, what kind of situation could be the worst one that can happen if I'm going to change the job? or if I'm going to start looking for the new job, then probably my worst scenario will be, okay, so maybe it will happen that I will just not find a new job. So it is my worst scenario. And then I'm going further, not to feel depressed, I would even say. So I'm going further, and once I create that black scenario or the worst scenario, I need to ask myself two questions. The first question would be, what can I do to prevent that worst scenario to happen? And the second question is, if that black scenario will really happen, what can I do to be prepared for that? What kind of action plan I can introduce? So I'm creating that black scenario and I'm preparing the plan. What to do to prevent, and what will I do if it really happens? And probably if I'm going to do it, I will see that in fact the black scenario is not so awful, and somehow I can handle it. Plus, I have some kind of will because I know what to do to prevent, and I know what to do just in case it happens. So it's some kind of the technique that can be used if in even private life we're a bit afraid of changes. But I told you that in case of business, it might happen that most of us were going to be in that role of observers. So we will check the company, we will see what they're going to do somehow to motivate us to change and to bring to us some kind of enthusiasm and engagement to change. On the other hand, it might happen that the companies will make some kind of mistakes, something will go wrong on the way, and it will be difficult to talk about any kind of engagement or enthusiasm. So let's talk about the reasons why we're not going to approach change with enthusiasm, let's say because of the companies. So what can go wrong? I would say that the most important, or almost the most important reason why we're not going to approach change with enthusiasm is going to be connected with the fact that we're simply overwhelmed with changes. We live really, really fast. The pace of changes is really, I would even say, unbelievable. We are facing all the time changes everywhere, not only in business, but also in our private life. We have huge pace of technological advancement. We have a lot of information, a lot of news in social media. So we're surrounded by fast pace, by constant changes. We can see that other people are changing, or they are showing that they are changing. So, well, we shouldn't be worse. We can see that there is a lot of competition, for example, in the market, and they are changing, changing. So we have to do the same. It means that I would again at least say it from my professional, or maybe rather from the private point of view, it means that we do not have time just to stop for a moment, take a breath and relax after change, because most typically all those changes, they are overlapping. One change is being introduced, and at the same time there is another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. Even if the first change is going to take, for example, 1 year, another one is going to be faster, and the further one is going to be even faster. So we are overwhelmed, we are simply tired. We don't have the time just to sit, relax, rest. I'm not even talking about the celebration, because I think it is something that doesn't happen at all, or almost at all. So we don't have time for celebration. And even if we don't have time to rest, how can we be motivated if we're all the time on the go, on the go? So I would say it is one of the first reasons that there are simply too many changes in the companies. And the other thing is that we also observe what is happening. And very often, if the companies are introducing a lot of changes, some of them, they will be successful, but some of them not necessarily. There is even the survey done by McKinsey, and they calculated, they forecasted, they predicted how many changes in business are successful. 30%. So let's say that if we know that the probability of the success is so low, and at the same time we know that, well, we have to invest a lot of effort into that change, Well, what for to do it? So we do not believe in success. We have also probably bad experiences because there were a lot of changes in the company. We could see that some of them, they were really failures. Some of them, they were also changing in the middle of change. Some of them, they didn't happen. Maybe somebody had the idea, but finally it wasn't completed. So we have that kind of bad experiences from our companies, from previous companies. We know some kind of stories from our friends. So we simply can't have some kind of certainty that change is going to be successful. I can also see it's a great idea to reduce overwhelming feelings with a celebration, maybe reaching a milestone. I agree that we should really stop for the moment whenever change is happening and have that second, that minute, that few hours even, just for celebration, for appreciation that we did it, that we were really successful, that our effort was finally resulting in some achievement. Otherwise, if we don't have it, well, again, motivation will rather drop. And if it is also about that certainty, what I would say is also important is the fact that if we're facing so many changes, we can never be sure how about the results. And I think that pandemic really changed a lot because we could face that kind of situation that there were a lot of businesses profitable, successful, all the strategies of those businesses, all the forecasts, budgets, everything was really striving to a good direction. And suddenly, pandemic happened. We couldn't predict it. It was something like really, really unpredictable. It showed us that the world is really very, very brittle. And even if today the situation of our company is quite stable, and we have nothing to be afraid of, who knows what is going to happen tomorrow? So why should we involve in change if we don't know what is going to happen? Another thing, and the reason why we might be pretty resistant to change, is connected with the risk of failure. Not only failure from the point of view of organization, but our own individual. Because again, it's pretty natural that when we introduce change, some kind of mistakes will happen. The pace of our work, it will be not so fast. We won't be delivering 100% of the results. Well, let's say it's obvious and logical, but I have that kind of belief or strong conviction that not all of the organizations accept it. Because pretty often, if they want to introduce some changes, at the same time, they're expecting very fast performance, 100% of results. They do everything to make people minimize their mistakes, or there is always some kind of the risk or the question mark, what if I'm going to make mistakes? The organization is changing, they are optimizing, they are introducing some kind of automation. So we have that kind of question mark in our head, oh, maybe downsizing will happen. So if I'm going to make mistakes, who knows, maybe I will be the first on the list to downsizing. So we are afraid of our individual failure because of the consequences, because of the implications that can happen in the company, but it's also about our personal approach. If we are accountable, if we're professional, if we treat our work and duties with ownership, of course, we would like to minimize the mistakes. Additionally, I would say that there are even certain countries, cultures, and nationalities in which mistakes are rather unwelcome. So if I know that I have to involve myself in some new process, in the process of changing some kind of the system, and I will know that people in my company, people in my country, people in my culture, well, they don't rather treat mistakes as a natural part of our development and learning process, I will be really afraid to join the change because, well, I will make mistakes. So why should I even involve if it is going to happen? That part connected with learning and mistakes is also connected with the imposter syndrome, I would say. Um, Probably, if we're talking about some kind of a loss during the process of change, We can think that after implementation of some new process, maybe some new solution, some new system, we will lose our position and authority because we already have been working in the company for a while. We learned a lot, we became experts. And in fact, right now, if the change is going to be introduced, we're going to unfortunately go down. We're going to level down, probably to the position of junior. So I'm an expert in one system. After change implementation, I will have to start from the scratch. I will have to learn again. I will have to become expert. I will have to gain my position again. So that's something from our individual approach which can make us feel really resistant to change. And probably a few more things strictly connected with both first company and our individual approach. One of the things is related to the way how change is going to be presented by the company. And I think that's something what is really missing in some of the organizations. And that's one of the main reasons why people are going to lose motivation, or they will not even start with that motivation. One of the main reasons is that the companies are not presenting why change has to be introduced. What is the reason? They are, of course, talking about the whole plan, for example, how they are going to introduce the change, or they're going to talk about, for example, the outcome of the change, but they're not going to give us some kind of solid ground why we need to change, why we have to change. Or even if they do it, they will rather present some kind of strategic vision. So they will tell us, well, we need to change because the company will develop, or we need to enter the new markets, we need to increase our brand awareness, let's say, in the market. So they will rather present some kind of the reasons, goals, or the expected outcomes connected with the company and its strategy. And let's say that for us, well, that's not something what matters. Because if somebody is going to tell me, let's say the CEO of the company, if they're going to tell me that our company is entering the process of change because within the next 5 years, we want to be the best company in the world, or within 10 years, we want to enter all the continents. I don't care. I don't even know what I'm going to do at the weekend. And you're telling me about some vision of entering the markets in 10 years or in 5 years. I don't know if I'm going even to work in that company. So that's also one of the reasons that at the very beginning, we're going to hear about the change. And even if the company is going to tell us why change has to happen, we won't see any kind of alignment. We won't see any kind of connection between those expected goals of the company and our individual goals. And at the same time, what is really important is some kind of disproportion and some kind of imbalance. Because the company will say, we need to change because we will develop, we want to reach higher level of profitability, and all that kind of strategic reasons and metrics. But let's say we are not stupid, because we know that we are the ones who are going to work. We're the ones who are going to work in overtime probably. We're the ones who will lose those positions, those competences. We will have to invest a lot of effort into the process of change. And the benefits which are presented, so that goal, that vision probably, that expected outcomes, they are the benefits of the company. So, oh, that's unfair because I have to invest myself, my time, my energy, my competences, the risk of making mistakes. So I have to invest everything, and I'm not going to even have anything in return because the benefits will go to the company. And that's the reason why, if we want to be involved in change, we need to see some, I would say, personal, individual benefits. And something what was already mentioned by one of you, so this celebration and those milestones, I would say it's really important for our mind, for our individual approach. Because I need to see that even though the company wants to reach higher level of profitability, I need to see my own benefits. For example, if let's say in a month I will see that implementation of the new system, of the new functionality is going to save me some time. And instead of working on some report for 2 hours, I will be able to work on that report 1 hour. Okay, that's somehow some tangible effect, benefit, which I see because I saved 1 hour. Then, okay, I can invest some time in that because I will see the benefits and the balance will appear. Of course, to that, we can probably place one of the typical, again, mistakes of the companies. Because I'm pretty sure it very often happens that even if we are going to save that 1 hour of our time because of implementation of the new system, our managers, our leaders are going to assign some new tasks, some new projects. So I saved one time of my time. My manager is coming to me. That person is assigning me new tasks and they take 2 hours. So that's unfair because I just saved 1 hour, but I just got 2 more hours. Come on. Again, that's really unfair. And that's also one of the reasons why we are resistant to change, because we are afraid that the change is not going to save our efforts or timing, but we will have more and more and more. So obviously, we don't want it. Another thing, which is connected, I would say, with some business trends, is related to typical competences which are required in change, or which should be, I should rather say, which should be required in change. Because I would say that from the point of view of the market and some competences which are right now very welcome, it's about critical thinking, it's about strategic thinking, it's about analytical thinking. They sound pretty fancy, I would say, and they are very, very welcome. And on the other hand, if we're talking about change, people who are able to really incorporate change are the ones who are hardworking, are the ones who are disciplined, are the ones who are consequent in implementation of different kind of the actions. So let's say that if I'm going to participate in some recruitment process for the position of change manager, project manager, and I'm going to go to that process, they will probably ask me about my strengths, about my talents, and I will tell them, well, I'm disciplined, I'm patient, and I'm consequent. Boring. But if I'm going to tell them I'm very flexible, I'm able to think analytically, I'm able to think strategically, oh, yeah, that's great. But in fact, they need that first part of the competences. They need me to be patient because I need some time to introduce the change, and they need it as well. They need me to be disciplined because only then I can not only implement, but I can maintain the change. So that's also about some kind of the competences which are required not only in business, but they are really necessary whenever we implement any kind of private change.